Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us for the June 2023 monthly work session of the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Planning Commission. I would like to recognize this meeting as my final full-body commission meeting of my service, as well as the Vice Chair, Philip Gusman. Thank you all for joining us. We will officially call the meeting to order and take a moment for introductions, beginning with my commissioners to my right, please.
Vice Chair Philip Gusman.
Rebecca Wilden, Planning Commission.
Will Russell, Planning Commission.
Douglas Welton. Rick Winokur.
Shauna Neely, Planning Commission.
Melissa Gaston, Planning Commission.
Andrew Blumenthal, Planning Commission.
Erin Shaw, Planning Commission.
And our staff that's joining us.
Dave Penn, Planning Department.
Allison Craig, Planning Director.
Candace Rory, Planning Staff.
And I'm late, but Clayton Seeley, Planning Commission.
Alicia Osborne, Planning Staff. We have Mike, so.
We need,
Benjamin, Planning Staff.
thank you. I believe there may be a motion to amend our agenda to add one item, very short, brief, and we have space for it. So I'll turn the floor over to Mr. Vice Chair.
Thank you. I'd like to make a motion to amend the agenda to include the opportunity to pass a resolution supporting staff in the UDO.
So moved. Blumenthal.
Second, Welton.
I think the motion was made by Commissioners Gusman and Blumenthal, seconded by Walton. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. That agenda item, Mr. Vice Chair, did you have a preference in terms of placement?
I do not. I would say whatever works best from your perspective. Maybe we go ahead and get it done early.
I would agree. Let's put it right after minutes.
Certainly.
Having said that, if everyone has had an opportunity to review the work session minutes from our May 2023 meeting, entertain a motion.
Motion, Rebecca Wilden.
Motion,
Welton, second.
I'm assuming that was a motion to approve.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you so much. Motion by Wilden, second by Weldon. Welton. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Unanimous. Thank you. Mr. Vice Chair.
Excellent. Yes. I think this is a relatively quick resolution I'd like to make after all of the years that this body has spent developing, working with staff. I'd like us to pass a resolution in support of the many years of work the commission and staff have put forward and the ongoing public outreach that we have contributed to and participated in. As some of the most informed members of the public regarding land use in the city and the ETJ of Charlotte, I feel it is important to recognize that the UDO as passed was intended to be changed based on the data and impacts that just cannot be evaluated with only a few short weeks of information. Therefore, I'd like to motion that we, the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Planning Commission, approve this resolution of support. The Charlotte-Mecklenburg Planning Commission fully supports the goals of the 2040 Comprehensive Plan and methods with which to accomplish them as adopted in the Unified Development Ordinance. Specifically, we support the equitable increase of housing diversity and density to reach those goals throughout Charlotte. We recommend to planning staff and city council to review the results of the UDO implementation in 6 months and act in response to the real impact of the new code. That is my motion.
Blumenthal, second.
Motion by Gusman, Blumenthal, second. Discussion.
My intent here is to reinforce that this body just 12 months ago approved and supported the passing of these critical elements in the UDO. And that my perspective, at least, is that we are not in the position to effectively evaluate what we have created before it has actually gone onto the ground, as might be suggested currently by other bodies. I'll take any questions or comments.
Any other discussion?
I wasn't here when the original UDO was coming through, but everything I've learned since then from knowledgeable planning staff and my fellow planning commissioners, I'm wholeheartedly support your resolution.
Thank you, Commissioner Reniker. Any additional comments, discussion? Blumenthal?
Commissioner Blumenthal, I just want to say, first of all, I emphatically support, Vice Chair Gusman's resolution. Again, our intention was to never let perfect be the enemy of good with this document, right? So that we would always be able to improve it as we moved along. In the different stakeholder groups that I engage with, and I just want to encourage the whole commission to keep this in mind. We want to encourage feedback, right? But we want to encourage people to make that productive and have, criticism and or changes and or feedback that helps us to make it a better document, not just something that we can't do anything with. So in your conversations, please make sure to advise other people who engage with the UDO, who are impacted by it. If they want to give feedback, we're all ears, but to keep it productive and keep it constructive, right? And that's it.
Thank you, Commissioner Blumenthal. Any additional comment, discussion? Hearing none, there is a motion on the floor by Gusman, second by Blumenthal. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The resolution passes unanimous. Thank you, Commissioner Gusman.
Allison, I hope that can help.
Thank you. I appreciate you all and appreciate your support.
Our rezoning program manager, Dave Patton, is making a very rare appearance with us today. And I have about 5 jokes that I'll reserve till after June 20th. But he is before us today. Over the past, I would say year and a half, there have been talks, discussion as the UDO has been kind of baking and implementation efforts underway. We have identified some areas of the rezoning process that could be refined, tweaked, updated, improved, et cetera. And Dave and his team have been working diligently to come up with some quick wins in terms of rezoning process. And they've termed this set of changes the rezoning tune-up, and he'll go through those in just a quick second in short order. But I want to take this opportunity to identify, this is June 12th, and our public hearings for the month of June, because of the holiday, are on Tuesday, June 20th. And the zoning committee work session following public hearings is usually 14 days after public hearings, which would fall at the beginning of July, whatever that first Tuesday is without counting a holiday. I want to say the 5th of July.
Yep.
And having said that, if the incoming leadership follows what has been historically done in changing committee assignments, that committee assignment change would happen on July 1. For those who might have a new assignment, if you suspect that you might have a new assignment, meaning you would switch from one committee to the other. If you're moving to zoning committee, you will need to, at minimum, watch the June 20 meeting. At least during the week of June 20 is what I would suggest, so that you're properly prepared to take action, vote, and provide input on those rezoning matters on July 5th. So again, our committee assignments are typically on July 1. And your first order of business would be to vote on a group of rezonings that were heard on June 20th. So that's kind of a heads up for whoever that group of people might be, because as my our podium visitor reminded me, that's not my department. Thank you so much, Dave, for visiting with us today. And with that, I will turn it over to you, unless Allison, you want to give a brief intro.
No, I mean, you did, you summarized that well. I mean, we're always looking to make things easier for the public to understand. The regulatory process can be confusing for many people that are very experienced in land use and development and wanting to, so we've been talking about ways in which we can provide more information or make information more clear to you and to council and the community. So Dave will go over a few things that we are considering.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Good to see everyone. Thanks for having me. So we're going to go over, we provided this information to our Transportation Planning and Development Committee, which was kind of the start of going through some of these tune-ups, as Allison mentioned, that we're trying to do just to continue to refine our information that we share, how we're sharing it, and try to get a little bit more efficiency built into our process. So with that, let me jump into just to discuss just some of the major planning initiatives that we've got. Of course, we are kind of here in 2023, June 1. Of course, the UDO just went into effect just about a week and a half ago. We are in the midst also of our community area planning and policy map updates. Alignment rezoning is going to potentially come on the back heel of that on 2024, 2025. So we've done a lot, as y'all have been aware of and been a part of, and thank you for your role in all of this. But since 2021, some really major initiatives that we've been able to achieve and accomplish. And now we get the work of implementation and refinement, which is really where a lot of that heavy lifting also starts to come in. So just to reset where we are, like I said, UDO just in effect. So off we go. So as we get into this rezoning process enhancements, one of the things that we've kind of talked through is we realized that some of the information sharing, particularly on brand new petitions, things that come out at the end of each month, we were falling a little bit short on and need to provide a little bit more information and lead time to both council members, the community, planning commission, also our board of county commissioners. So we have put together a list. If a lot of you know, the rezoning group is a big fan of spreadsheets. So we've got a really good set of information that we will send out at the beginning of each month. That will coincide with the newest batch of 16 to 18 petitions or so that we just send out for their initial review. And when that process gets started, it gives us about 3 months lead time on notices for rezoning activity. It's almost coincides with our courtesy notices that we provide to the community, both through mailed notices and our Nextdoor app. So the goal, again, is to get information on petitions out as early in the process as we can, to allow planning commission, to allow county council and board of county commissioners to be aware of it, to not be caught off guard by a question they may get from a community meeting that's held throughout those 3 months. So again, just as much lead time as we can so everybody can prepare and be as well informed as they'd like to be. One of the other items we've talked through is launching the Development Near Me app. We've got May on here. We're continuing to do some refinements that may be coming, I believe, this month, Allison. So this Development Near Me app, been fortunate to kind of take a look at it internally. I think it's really going to be a bit of a game changer for us. It's going to be an interactive tool that folks can go in, type in their address, and be able to see everything that's going on around them, by right development, rezoning, CIP projects, building permits. So, if you've seen something in the neighborhood, you can really just type in your address and have a whole host of information at your fingertips. So looking forward to that launching later this month. It's going to be, I think, again, be a great tool for everybody, public, council, all folks to really be able to find information quick and easily. One of the other things that we've discussed in the past, and we're going to implement this, it says June, we're going to launch this on July 1 at the start of the fiscal year. Right now, the rezoning staff is assigned just by geographic service areas. So we've got, I think, 5 service areas throughout the city, north, south, east, west, and central. We've got enough team members on the rezoning team now that we can begin to assign service areas based on council districts. I think this will be a big help, particularly for members in council and even Board of County Commissioners to have really a set contact person that will just serve the district as a whole. Some of our service areas now overlap, so we've got some members that have 2 or 3 different council districts. So this will really be, again, just a little bit of a refinement for us, but I think it'll be a good change for, again, when they get questions, council gets questions, y'all get questions as a planning commission, or even county commissioners, they might get a question that they don't necessarily know who exactly to go to get some answers, or at least get that conversation started. So I think having a set person for each council district will really be a bit of a good built-in process to, again, increase that efficiency. And I think that's something that will help everybody just understand who their go-to person is, rather than trying to figure it out based on a geography that isn't really clear to everybody, except unless you're using Internet Explorer, Charlotte Explorer, Internet Explorer. So sorry, Charlotte Explorer. One of the other things that we've talked through, and this stems from some of the infrastructure conversations that we had with council back in December. We understand and know that that has been a much more of a refined focus by not just council, but every time we go out to community meetings. We've had a lot of town hall meetings with council over the last few weeks and continue on to this month. The continual thing that we hear from folks in the community is impacts to roads, impacts to schools, things like fire response times, water, sewer. So what we're working on the rezoning side, is there a summary that we can include in the staff analysis that essentially just gives you a quick reference to say, these are the infrastructure topics, and here's how these petitions may have just a general impact on schools, on roads. What are the things that are being captured maybe by the petition providing some improvements to road infrastructure, or are they building a school or setting land aside for a school? What water sewer improvements are they maybe providing? And also, what are the impacts to those? Is it an area where we have capacity issues? Is it an area where, the roads service may be seen as potentially inadequate for a project of that size? So we have all that information in there now. It's just a little bit difficult to always find or ascertain. You might have to go to the website to read a memo from Charlotte Water or from our stormwater staff. So what we're working on is just trying to break out. Really, it'd be just a general high-level summary. You can still always go back to those memos in more detail. But if we can just show a quick breakdown of those topics of infrastructure and how that petition may have an impact, so you don't have to necessarily go digging much further than just a good high level, to then prompt what questions need to be asked further from both zoning committee and from council, and again, our partners at the county commission as well. So having that, I think, will help to really put that focus on it and keep that focus on what we've heard is really important and really a concerning issue. So let's make sure that information is at everybody's fingertips, so we know and can make the best informed decisions on these rezoning petitions. Also continue to work with our partner departments to improve some of the comments. Are there better ways to convey some of this info in a more easy to understand way? If we do get memos from certain departments, can we really just boil down what the general impacts are, just a few sentences at the beginning of that, still provide the detail that's needed, that might be a little more technical or a little more, just beyond just the general knowledge of somebody in the public that might be reading it. So is there a way to just state in, like I said, 2 or 3 sentences, this petition will have X impact on our water sewer, on our road capacity or stormwater. We're continuing to work through that. That's going to take a little bit of coordination. We do have a lot of partner agencies that we work with. But again, trying to just get a little bit more refinement in the information we get for these petitions. Next would be also to work on continuing to provide a full digital agenda for, this says for discussion. So zoning committee gets a fully digital agenda. It makes our lives in planning a little bit easier because we're not having to send things down to the print shop to get things printed on a Thursday before the meeting. It also allows us to keep things a little bit more up to date if something changes after we publish. If you have the digital agenda, we just make that quick update and republish it. It's not a big deal. If we, have the print agendas, something changes, we've just got static information. We've got to update them either at the podium or via email over the weekend. So what we'd like to do is have all the agendas that we provide for both council and zoning committee continue this trend to be all digital. And I think one of the things that we've talked through is if we're able to do that, we can also then link things like our memos from Charlotte Water, from Stormwater, directly in that staff analysis. So there's really the ability then to have living hyperlinks in the document. That makes the information in detail even more accessible. So one of the things that, again, we're continually to work through is going to that full digital agenda, mainly for the council meetings, because that's really the only one that we don't provide that digital agenda for. So if that's something that we can get in place, I think that will serve the entire process a lot better. So hopefully we'll continue to get some folks on board. We do have some council members who've received just the digital agenda. So we've seen that trend kind of tick up a little bit. If we can get everybody on board, I think it will be a really good outcome. And again, really provide more information in those. That's kind of the trade-off, the carrot that we're providing is if we can go to that, then we can really give you all the information at your fingertips. And then we talked about providing monthly information to the Board of County Commissioners on petitions. And this is the summary sheet that I was talking about earlier in this presentation, because we do hear a lot from the county folks that they're not always informed of a petition going through the process. We do have a lot of petitions in the ETJ. And so they're the ones that get a lot of the phone calls and questions about that. So again, how can we make sure that we're providing some of that lead time to our partners at the County Commission so they know, what petitions are coming online. And if they do get a question, they can refer back to it, know who to talk to, know which questions to ask, and really, again, give everybody as much lead time and information as possible. So we do have some just general development data by the different districts. So this was something we presented back to TPD during this presentation. You can see in 2022, just general commercial development. District 3 really saw a pretty big uptick in by right development, which is the dark green. The light green there is rezoning. So you can see we've got quite a bit of activity in District 3. This again was commercial development, residential units. Similar, you've got a pretty big push in District 3 with residential, as well as District 4. District 1 is not too far behind. And then you start to break down District 5, 6, 7, and 2 kind of coming in a little bit. 2 and 5 are very similar. 6 and 7, probably the least active of those areas. But I think this gives us all a really good idea. And I think we see this regularly each month when we get petitions, who's the most active on that zoning night. And it's typically District 3 and District 4, as well as District 1. So this kind of pans out in the way that we see it on each Monday, every third Monday of the month. But just to put this graphically to you, you can get a good idea of what we're dealing with. And this was just 2022. So, we will continue to see these numbers fluctuate and change, but this gives us a good idea of where a lot of that development activity is occurring. And we did talk a little bit about our review updates. So one of the things we've continued to hear is, why are we still seeing inconsistencies on rezoning night on that third Monday? Of course, some of that is because of market changes. You have new ideas and concepts being developed throughout the city. When you put together a plan, it's always going to have some things that are going to be, changed and updated as you go through it, things you didn't expect or anticipate, particularly market shifts. With the policy map being adopted in 2022, that does give us a citywide update to just that old policy guidance we used to have that lived in area plans, that lived in district plans. We had way too many plans going on to work through, some really old, some new. So this, as you all know, gives us that citywide policy to go by. That's going to continue to be refined in this community area planning process we're all in. But again, this is why we start to see some of these inconsistencies, because things change that quickly. And in a city that's developing as quickly as ours, that's how quickly some of those market changes and shifts can happen. So how we handle these inconsistencies, we do look at different things, including but not limited to things like proximity to transit service, things that are they accessible to alternative modes of transportation like greenways, major trails? Are they near our future activity centers or campus place types where we might see a large employment center? Are they really, what kind of road are they located on? Is it a major thoroughfare? Is it just a 2-lane collector road? Are we looking at multifamily in an area where we really have some of those still older kind of ditch to ditch road cross sections that may not be quite suitable yet for that type of development? What's the context of the area? So are we seeing these same development patterns, or is this kind of, we've heard this term at some of the zoning committees, is these one of these pioneering kind of petitions that may be the first in the door, and how do we treat that, and how do we deal with that without setting a precedent that might be something that we don't have unintended consequences from? And then what type of development patterns again are occurring in the area? Like we see some inconsistencies in that North Tryon corridor sometimes, but a lot of the development patterns are what we're continually seeing or matching up with the petitions we're seeing. So again, that's how quickly some of that market shift occurs. And that we have to kind of pivot and really think about maybe through a little bit of a different lens. So these are all some of the things that we talk about and evaluate when we get those inconsistent petitions. We're continually looking for ways to refine this. We've got some things that we might want to consider putting forward to formalize this a little bit more. I think as we continue to test it out, we're seeing some of the things that we're looking at are giving us some of those bases for modifying the policy map, but we're also seeing where, some things we might still need to think through, particularly some smaller infill projects and development where you might see a small remnant parcel that's being redeveloped from a single family home to, maybe 6 or 9 townhomes. So, we're really trying to think through this in a way that is effective to deal with those market realities, but also, gives us some good standing still with what our policies are and what our long-term goals are that were adopted in that 2040 plan. And we also consider that department agency feedback as we go through those requests as well. So next steps would be to continue to test these criteria. So when we bring those petitions forward to both council and when you see them on zoning committee night, we just wanted to reiterate to folks that we are thinking through them in a little bit of a uniform process, that if we get to a point where we feel like, okay, we're comfortable with these criteria, let's maybe put these out for a little bit more formal consideration. We'll continue to test those and see where that shakes out. We'll continue to work with TPD on an inconsistency toolbox for interim use. That's kind of where we are right now. And then map refinements will continue to occur during that community area planning process, expected to complete in early 2024, as we all know. And then that updated policy map should include some companion guidance for that map amendment criteria once we get everything in that refined state. So with that, that's what our presentation is at the moment. We do want to set up some time, I think, in the future for hopefully some orientation to get some of you new zoning committee members a little bit more comfortable before they step right into making recommendations and decisions on zoning committee night. So stay tuned for that. But with that, I'll take any questions you have on the items we just talked through.
Thank you, Mr. Patton. Thank you so much. I think we do have some questions. I think I'm gonna get my few out of the way first. Do you have yet an example of a PHA with these process updates?
Of like what a formatted page of what they would look like?
Post or pre-hearing analysis?
I don't have a draft of one. One of the challenges, I'll say this in full transparency, of getting some of these changes integrated into the process is it's like we're trying to fix a moving train while it's moving, which is very difficult. We haven't really paused this process at all to be able to really just put the brakes on it to stop it and kind of do what we need to do to refine it. So we're kind of working through it as it's rolling along, which can be challenging, but I think we'll have some good drafts for that. My goal is to have some of those over the next few weeks. So we do have an idea of what it's going to look like. We do have some conversations set up with CMS as well to figure out how we might be able to better capture and communicate out school impacts. So I think that's something that we've had some good standing meetings with Dennis Licari and his group to figure out what that section may look like as well. So haven't had a formatted idea yet, but really I think it would be probably a kind of a box that lives in the middle of the staff analysis before we get into all the department comment details. It just basically says infrastructure overview or infrastructure impact overview and just calls out those, key points or key elements like schools, roads, water, sewer, and then just what those impacts may be. Does it have capacity? Does it not? Is schools, in a green light, yellow light, red light kind of phase? What are some of the road impacts, and not maybe just impacts to roads, but what are some of the highlights that they're doing for improvements? So I think that's kind of how I envision it before it gets put on paper. That's what's living in my brain at the moment, but we'll hopefully get it out there soon.
So, and I was going to ask for a guesstimate in terms of when might the public first lay eyes on this updated pre-hearing analysis? I'm assuming that's where it probably would show up first.
Yeah, so I think what we'd like to do is we can either get it in place and take it to like TPD to say, is this something that works for y'all? Or we can put it in place and present it on zoning night for the first time, which isn't necessarily preferred. I don't like to put folks, put something in front of folks without at least seeing it, initially. So I think the goal would be to let's let TPD kind of give it some, some review and just give us a good thumbs up on it, and then work at it from there, because they're the ones that really want this information at the ready. So I think we want to make sure that it's in a format that suits their needs. So I think that'd probably be the logical next step, which I think the next meeting for that is, we don't have a July TPD, so that would be probably August. But what I'd also think we could do is share with y'all what that may look like as well and give us some feedback on it. If that's something we do even before we go to TPD, I don't think there's any real harm in that. But I think it's a good starting point for us to get that out there.
Makes sense. And then thinking through, I think it's at the top of or maybe on the cover page of a rezoning in terms of a packet where it identifies the council district. And if it's in ETJ, it'll say most adjacent to.
Mhm.
I'm assuming as you are repositioning your team to handle these 7 instead of 5 assignments, that the person handling that ETJ would be the same person who is adjacent to handling that adjacent to district.
Yeah. So for example, whoever's covering, let's say District 3, if they have a ETJ petition, but it's closest to District 3, they would be the contact person for that. And that's something that we can communicate to the board, the county commissioners, so they know that it'd be one and the same for them.
Makes sense. Can you go back 3 slides for me, or to the graph, maybe more than 3? You have this data by square foot and by number of units. Do you happen to have it by number of petitions as well?
I would imagine we do. Yeah, I think that's probably where some of this came from. We do track and send out monthly, sheets to them for each zoning meeting. So I don't have it broken down off the top of my head in front of me, but we do have that activity by district. And I think it pencils out to be about the same. The most active district has historically been 3, 4, and 1, sometimes kind of change one versus the other. But 3, 4, and 1 have always been the most active. I don't have it broken out yet for what we've seen so far this year, but just kind of knowing that trend, 4 maybe coming close on the heels of 3, given all that we've seen up there. But certainly we can break all that down and provide that out to you if that's something you'd like to see.
Okay, I was just curious. I know that this information may be over the heads of a few of you, but don't worry, not for long. So if you have a question, even if you think it's a crazy one, ask it anyway. I'll just say it's not very frequent that you will get this guy in this room during these types of meetings. So having said that, Commissioner Gusman.
Kiba actually took my question, but I still want to take the opportunity to thank you, Dave. This is great. I think heading in the direction of the digital format, at least making sure. I know I was trying to be an early adopter, and even that was hard way back when. So I know it's something that we all have managed to embrace, And I think it works better, no doubt about it. We have to all work on our own method of making sure we collect our data. But Dave's got some great ideas on how we can do that and everything. Thank you, though.
Yeah, thank you.
Commissioner Shaw here. Thank you, Dave. I know you all are dealing with I can't imagine the level of petitions and data you all process. So appreciate you coming in and educating us. And I'll be, as the newest member of the commission, the first to ask the, I'm sure, very ignorant question, but I'll ask it anyway. Post, I guess, beginning in February, which I believe was the sort of moratorium on review of petitions until the UDO passage June. What is an example of a by right development at this point in time? Because I'm sort of ignorant on that point and wanting
Sure.
to understand better. I understand in 2022 what that meant, but wanting to understand better what that means in today's. policy.
So we cut on February 1st, what we switched over was we weren't accepting conditional petitions under the old ordinance. So after January 31st, every petition that came in that was going to propose a conditional district versus just a conventional one had to be a UDO district. When we switched over in March 1st, essentially anything submitted after March 1st was all UDO. You couldn't request any of the old legacy districts. So we didn't stop any of the process. There was no real pause or anything. We just switched over when we would stop accepting petitions for old legacy districts versus new UDO districts. So at this point, after June 1, every by right petition or every by right project would fall under whatever UDO district they may have translated to, unless they had an old conditional district. None of that changed. So if you had an B2 conditional from 1993, that would still be B2 conditional today, and that's your by right project that you'd have to go by. So the only thing that really changed would be if you had a conventional zoning district on your property and that switched over to one of the new UDO districts, you would just then have to work with the UDO versus the old code. So unless you got permits in before June 1 and all of that, which is all the land development side of things. But from a rezoning standpoint, March 1st kind of changed that, flipped that switch for us. So everything we see now is a UDO-based rezoning request. We will still have legacy districts that continue through the process. They all have to be cleared out by, I think, March 1st of next year. So after March 1st, we shouldn't see any more conditionals that are old districts. Everything should be UDO-based. We will see some UDO-based decisions and hearing items at our meeting next week. So you'll see, and it'll be a little confusing, I'll say, for some of y'all that will be rolling over to zoning committee. Even for our council members, we'll see UDO districts requesting old legacy districts that are conditional, which is kind of one oddity that we've come across. Like if something was R3 but going to MUD conditional, it's now going to be N1A, but it's still going to MUD conditional. So that's a little bit of a nuance to it. But overall, by right essentially just now means whatever zoning district you have in place, whether it's a UDO district or an old legacy conditional district. So hopefully that answers your question.
Thank you. Yeah, that's helpful. So is it fair to say then that the by right petitions are getting an additional level of review and commentary and or approval because of the nuances of interpreting a new document, or?
I think what we'll start to see is there'll be a little bit more of I think we're going to have to just better understand all the different outcomes in those new UDO zoning districts, which, you know, the team has a pretty good handle on, but some of the permitted use has changed. You know, some of the things in terms of development outcomes have changed a little bit. So what we anticipate seeing is just more time spent on understanding what the full outcomes of a conventional petition could be. Because if it was just going to R4, you know, it was going to be single family at 4 dwelling units per acre. But now if it's going to N1B, which is the old R4, right? We're going to have to decide and determine how many units could potentially be built, because now we can allow duplexes and triplexes and even quads under certain conditions. Even in like a neighborhood 2 outcome, there could be some non-residential uses that might fit in there. So it's just better understanding all those development outcomes that are possible as a conventional petition, and then applying that to how does that fit into the context of the area it's being requested in.
Thank you. And one more follow-up and then I'll stop peppering you. Are are the conventional petitions and the non-conventional going into the same bucket from a review and timeframe standpoint at this stage?
Yeah, so we send everything out at the end of the month. So we take typically about 16, sometimes we get upwards of 18, 20, depending, because we count conventionals as a half a petition essentially. So once we hit that 16 mark, even if we have, some conventionals mixed in there, they get sent out for review. We take the first month to review in pretty significant detail, all the petition aspects. And then when it goes back through the cycle, it then starts to go into 2-week increments. So all petitions are treated in that same cycle. The first round of reviews is a month, then we go into more, incremental kind of 2-week reviews from there before we can clear it for public hearing. Conventionals always will probably take a little bit less time to go through because we're not looking at all the detailed notes of the site plan and all those outcomes. So it's more of going through that first round of reviews, making sure there's no major red flags. And then from there, it usually gets to a hearing about a month quicker than a conditional one would, but they all get through that same round of review process, particularly from the start. So.
Thank you.
Mr. Russell.
Thank you, Dave. This is an excellent presentation. So I've got one comment, one question/comment, and then one question. I'll start with my question/comment. Is there a way we could get a copy of this presentation? Because I think it's remarkable, and that would be insanely helpful if I could.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'll work with Candace. We'll get that sent out to you.
Excellent. My comment is based around how we're being more transparent with the information, which I think is a good thing. We do need some more community feedback. The one thing I would be careful about or just kind of be mindful of as you're couching that information is especially on roads and infrastructure. Like what I don't want to see is that information get weaponized by the community and say, oh, we need more roads, so wider roads. But that might not necessarily be the best outcome for that community is widening the road.
Right.
There needs to be some consideration about when and where that's appropriate and why it's necessary. My question is service districts, which I absolutely love this idea. I think is a great way to kind of break down the geographic distribution of development. And this question may be a little far out. So if it's further out than you're thinking, that's fine. I just want to know, but will the service areas by council districts change with the districts as they're redistricted? I cannot say that word. As the lines are redrawn.
Yeah. So,
Thank you.
yeah, we have to keep those district boundaries up to date. If there's any change to them, like we had a couple changes, I guess, last year, 2 years ago. So everything in that area got updated. The folks will stay the same in terms of who's going to cover those areas. We might change, after a couple years, just to give everybody an opportunity to work in different districts and really experience and understand, the city as a whole. But for the most part, we'll try to keep static on those, but we'll have to update boundaries if they get updated through council action or other kind of actions that have to be taken when a council district gets amended for whatever reason, or if we sometime down the road maybe add another district or who knows what else. Then we'll always adjust those, particularly also if we have annexations and that area grows, we'll make sure that everybody's up to speed on that if they're covering that district. And as far as the comment on the transportation stuff, I do agree with you. I think one of the things that we have to work through with our partners in CDOT is when we capture that information in terms of infrastructure impacts when it comes to roads, do we look at that more as what the petition is actually providing to help offset some of that versus, capacity or level of service, which I think sometimes can be misinterpreted or misused in some ways. So, my initial thought is that we actually highlight what the petition is providing in terms of transportation benefits. So that may be a little bit of a different approach with just that topic versus others, where you can clearly state, there's a capacity issue for water or sewer. It's a little bit more nuanced with roads. And like you said, if that information is looked at in a certain way, it can be used to maybe not convey the message that really needs to be focused on, which is there may be some transportation constraints, but what is this petition doing to actually help offset or mitigate those, which I think should be more of the focus on what we're looking at. Yep. Thank you. Yep.
So this is a really big step towards transparency. Last week, we did a council and commission town hall. Sorry, can I hate that? commission and community in the Mount Island Lake. And we had a woman, Kim, come by from the ETJ talking about transparency issues in specific. I'm really curious about this Development Near Me app. Is it possible now to aggregate things like on Acela by district, or is that kind of how this is going to work?
Yeah, one of the things that I think Development Near Me app will help to better kind of parse that out by district. One of the things we've always struggled with in our website, and I think even our new website, is we were never able to really sort that petition page by council district. What we hope to provide both with the Development Near Me app and also the data that we send everybody at the beginning of each month with the new petitions, which is going to run and track everything from even the months before. So it's going to be kind of a running tabulation. You'll be able to sort every field. You can sort it by the size of the project. You can sort it by which council district it's in. You can sort it by when the public hearing date may be. So all of that information will be sortable for y'all. And if there's a way we can continue to communicate that and provide that for a public facing version, I think the Development Near Me app will help with that, because you can look at it by district. I don't know if you can necessarily sort it, but you'll at least be able to know what's going on within that district. One of the things that I'd like to shoot for long term would be to have some of that development or that data that we've got and we track shared out somewhere on our website. So if somebody wanted to look at a yearly kind of, running tab of what we've done so far, that would be available, and folks could just sort that again by, how many units were built or how many, acres that project was. So something we'll still continue to work on, but I think the Development Near Me app will certainly help a lot in that aspect.
So in the past, I've had various media organizations approach me about training them to use things like Acela so that they could find information as quickly and easily as I tend to. I think it would be also a great idea to have some of those training sessions with people like Axios, Charlotte 5, Charlotte Observer, things like that, so that they know how to provide transparency to the community beyond what, the city does with their social media channels and things like that. So.
Yeah, I think that could be a good benefit if folks wanted to take us up on that. I think we'd be more than willing to provide some of that info. We do have a sheet on our rezoning page. If you go under the main page of rezoning, and it's, I think, for neighbors, we do have some instructions on how to use Excel and how to navigate it if you're just a member of the public. I will say that it's not the most user-friendly public facing software that we've used or that I've used in different public agencies, but it functions well, but I think it lacks that public interface. And so if there's ways we can continue to educate some folks on how to use it and find that info, we're all for it. If you want to connect them with me, I'd be more than happy to talk through it with them.
Yeah, I'd be happy to. And I can say that over the years, Polaris and Charlotte Explorer, I feel have gotten a little more difficult, especially with the development aspect. These days, you really just have to read lists and look for things that interest you. So improving that definitely will be a big step.
Yeah, agreed. And hopefully that's where this app will help us get to that point as well. Because I do, it consolidates things quite a bit. Because Explorer can be a little bit of a bear these days. So
yeah, well, I look forward to playing on it. So
good.
Wilton.
Dave, is the Development Near Me app a mobile app?
I believe it is. Yeah.
Yeah, it's mobile, phone, computer, however you want to access it.
Developed in-house, or did you guys contract it out?
I believe it was developed in-house. So it's really interesting. It's got, it'll have rezoning information. It'll have, it accesses some of the county stuff. So like you can see like demo permits, building additions. It's got CIP information on there. So it's like really a little bit of everything. And all those kind of live in different places. And so it's like consolidating them and having them in one application to view it all together.
Is this a possibility that we can be the beta testers, or?
I was actually supposed to go before council a couple weeks ago. And I think we're trying to do some things internally. We have a new website now. And so the new website launched kind of at the same time we're trying to launch the application, created some additional things we needed to cross-check before we launched it. But once we get that corrected, I'd be happy to share it with you all.
I'm your worst nightmare as a beta tester.
And I can already tell you there's some things that I would like to modify with that. So I'm certain I will hear from you.
Okay, just love you all, mean it.
Speaking of the new website,
Yeah.
this isn't a Dave thing, although it is pertaining to rezoning.org. The ability to easily navigate to historical data is challenging.
Yep.
And I've heard the criticism that it's an intent to discredit your efforts towards transparency. And I just wanted to offer that as feedback to the team. You can see what's moving forward, but if a rezoning has already been approved, like if a resident finds out something late, it's very challenging to go and see what that rezoning is about using rezoning.org. And maybe this feedback isn't new. I'm hoping that it's not new and it's something that's already been recognized, and if not, offering up.
Yeah, so what I'll say to that is completely heard. We had some challenges in the new website, transitioning our data from old to new. We had to focus initially when the website launched, I think back in April. And our main focus was getting everything that was active up on the website because we knew that we couldn't get it all. I don't think there was, really the preparation that we needed to get everything transferred. So the initial focus was everything that was active, and that's what's continually updated. And now we're working with INT to get all the historical petitions back through 2017 back up on the site. The website for those may look a little bit different in terms it may just contain the approved site plan, which is really the kind of nuts and bolts of what's important for that petition. Other memos and other things over time, we will likely get those back up, but the main focus for the historical ones will be back through 2017, getting all the approved site plans up there as well. So somebody can click on those and see what was approved. And then that's going to be continually built up over time. But the initial focus had to be on what was active because that was what was most important. And the historical stuff is getting worked on. And from what I understand, it's not far off from being fully completed. But that is something that we did struggle with for a couple months because we just didn't have the time or resources to get everything transitioned all at once by that April 14th rollout. So
Glad it's been identified and rectified in a way. Thank you. Any other questions, comments for Dave? Thank you, good sir.
awesome. Thank you. And
Appreciate
just while I have you both, thank you for all your service. It's been great working with both of y'all in this capacity, but also on zoning committee. You guys really helped keep everything kind of moving forward, and just appreciate all the support and guidance that you've given us and your time as well. It's been a long commitment, but thank you both for it. And I think we're all better off for your service and look forward to what you guys get into next.
Thank you so much, Dave. Appreciate you. And are we teeing up Ms. Mahoney?
Sure, I'll just say this will be a brief community area planning update, and Catherine will talk a little bit about where we are in the process and some summary of some engagement work that they've done and what they have coming up here real soon. So I'll turn it over to Catherine. Sure, I'll get you there.
Good afternoon. Catherine Mahoney, Senior Project Manager on the Long Range Division, working to advance the community area planning effort. You all have heard about this project for a number of months, and so the main intent today is to provide an update of some engagement opportunities coming up over the summer. But of course, I'll start with an overview of the project and some highlights of the engagement we've had this year. So as a reminder, community area planning is the next step in putting our comprehensive plan into action. This level of direction provides more detailed development guidance for smaller geographies. It builds upon the guidance of the comprehensive plan and was called for within that citywide document. So in that way, we're putting the vision into action. This slide summarizes the process for community area planning. It's a five-step process. The first 4 steps or phases are scheduled to be completed over the next 2 years. Phase 1, titled Setting the Stage, began in December last year, concluded in February of this year. And in this step, what we did was we translated the goals within the comprehensive plan to each planning geography by identifying their needs to access and their environmental impacts. Those findings are summarized in the community reports, which are available online. The second phase is called Creating Great Places. That started in April with a series of workshops and is still underway. We've completed 5 of our 7 spring geographies. We'll be holding the 6th geography workshops this week. And what we're doing in this phase is we're looking at the place type designations within the policy map to see if they address those needs for access and the environmental impacts. If they don't, where are areas where we can refine the designations in order to address the needs? So that we'll be concluding our spring workshops in July. We'll take a brief break over the summer, and then we'll resume them in the fall. And that work will go through December of this year. Then next year, 2024, we'll begin phase 3, which is supporting the vision. In this phase, we'll work with our interdepartmental partners like Department of Transportation and Housing and Neighborhood Services to identify the needed infrastructure projects and supportive programs to help the vision come to life. Also in 24, we'll work on phase 4, which is planning for action. And in this step, we develop an implementation strategy that will spell out how we can put the plan recommendations into action over the next 5, 10, or 15 years. And then the draft plans are scheduled to go through review and adoption in 2025. So as a reminder, the expected outcome of this effort are 14 individual plans, which are intended to be used in decision-making efforts such as the rezoning process and capital investment planning and budgeting. The place type refinements recommended within the plans, when adopted, will be incorporated into the citywide 2040 policy map. And then we expect that as we go through this process, we'll identify some potential updates for our comprehensive plan. And so those will be moved forward after this effort with future plan updates. So as we've shared, we have a 3-prong approach for engaging the community. All are aimed at making it an equitable and inclusive process. Under the constant category, these are the tactics that we're using to provide that 24/7 access to the process. Everything from our website to videos, newsletters, social media, and online tools like story maps. Then we have a bucket of coordinated efforts. This includes focus groups, workshops, library office hours, neighborhood meetings, cultural events. I'll say that we have employed all of the tactics except for the focus group shown here within the first 2 buckets. So that's a lot of stuff that we're doing. And focus groups are being developed and are intended to be employed next year. So we are staying true to the strategy that we put out in the beginning. And then also within the collaborative bucket, we are working with different appointed and elected officials and interdepartmental stakeholders. So to date, we've had over 14,000 interactions. The majority of this work, the majority of the interactions fall within the constant bucket. Understandably, that's the bucket that provides that 24/7 interaction. But what's hopeful to me, or at least what I'm happy about, is that it's demonstrating that people are using and interacting with the information that we've put out there. So we have over 7,000 website views, 1,300 video views, 900 story map views, which are those community reports that I mentioned, and over 3,000 people receiving our newsletter. So the content is definitely out there and being interacted with. In terms of our coordinated efforts, we've had over 200 people at our workshops, and then we've interacted with over 600 people at other in-person events like the town hall meetings and our library office hours. So we're getting in front of people as planned. As we've mentioned, we will continue to enhance our engagement strategy as we measure our success. And so this summer, there are a few things that we're going to do to continue to reach some of the underrepresented, either historic populations or within the current effort. And so shown here is just a simple list. And then the intent is to give you an idea of all that's coming. So 2 of the events, the Mayor's Youth Employment event and the Generation Nation, these are 2 events that allow us to engage with younger populations. And so we'll be meeting them at their time, their venue, but sharing our content and getting their input. There are 2 events, the Sustain Charlotte and the Leadership, or excuse me, Sustain Charlotte and the Academy Reunion. This is an event, or these are 2 events that are really aimed at stakeholders that are possibly either more informed or more interested in the content. And the idea is that reaching that audience hopefully will encourage them to be ambassadors of our work and recruit participation. So Sustain Charlotte, they are the host of the June 29th event. It'll be at Camp North End. And it's an effort that will allow us to demonstrate how the comprehensive plan and the UDO are going to build a more equitable city. There will be short presentations and then a panel discussion. And then for our Academy Reunion, we're inviting people to both the Civic Leadership Academy graduates and our Planning Academy graduates to a location, having a small gathering, sharing information about the effort, and then engaging them in a light version or a light touch of what we've been sharing at the workshops. And then the other 2 events on the screen, A Vibe Called Fresh and our City Suppers, are 2 efforts that are intended to, bless you, reach our West Side stakeholders. Vibe Called Fresh, I'm not sure if any of you are familiar with it, but it's an outdoor festival. It's hosted at the West Complex on Trade Street. They have a great following. And so they've agreed to partner with us, and we will be bringing, again, that light touch content out. It's really kind of 2 posters that summarize the purpose and ask some value-based questions. And so we're hoping to get a lot of interactions there. And then City Suppers, Councilmember Graham has agreed to hold the first supper. And essentially we're pairing food with conversation and sharing, an overview of the project. And again, a more consolidated or simplified version of what we've shared at the workshops. So all of this is taking place during that break that I mentioned, and then we resume our workshops in September. So we continue to be out there and do as much as we can with the time we have. With that, I'll pause for questions or turn the floor back over to you.
I appreciate the flexibility of the CAP team. And I also am happy to hear finally council members latching on to this process. I think it was mentioned by Council Member Mitchell that they wanted it on their schedules, the CAP engagement sessions on the calendar for council. I think that was about 2 or 3 council meetings ago. So I'm happy to hear that they have finally latched on. Any questions for Catherine? Commissioner Russell?
Thank you, Catherine. Just a question, in going through your 4 phases, I think phase 4 was a plan for action where you're talking about implementing what you're doing on the ground for the investments. So I want to preface this by saying, and I know this is a different process, but in the previous area planning process, we came up with this wonderful vision, but the zoning never supported what was agreed to. And the rezonings never matched what was agreed to. So my question is, when we're putting this plan, this implementation plan together, are we going to match the zoning with the aspiration? Because perfect example, if we're going to call something a neighborhood community center, but you're getting a whole bunch of residential rezonings. Does that make sense?
Right.
And so are we going to start matching our aspirations with the legal?
I'll let Allison respond to that, but in short, yes, and coordination's underway.
Yeah, so thanks for the question. I mean, the alignment rezoning process is a complement to this effort. And so really wanting to start with the policy first as, you know, as best practice. And so which is really the area planning process, but ultimately next year and into 2025, there will also be an effort similar to TOD where we went through and did an alignment rezoning to align the zoning that's on the ground to what is identified in the policy map that will be refined through area planning. So long answer short, yes, there will be an effort, but we're starting first on the planning side to really sort of talk through that effort first.
Understood, and that makes sense. I just want to make sure that we don't lose that in the process. The other part of this is, I think we still have an issue in Charlotte when it comes to the development about predictability. Like nobody knows what's going anywhere until a petition is filed. So has any consideration been given to, and I'm just going to make this term up here, like a density map, where you're literally just saying, hey, here are 5 or 10 areas in Charlotte that we're going to pack as many people as we can humanly pack into these 5 or 10 people, in these 5 or 10 places. They're going to show up on your map. And as we talk to the community, we're going to reinforce that. We're going to stick as many people inside this circle as we can. So that if you live outside that circle, you've got a business decision to make. And I think what it would do is provide that kind of predictability for staff, for council, for developers, and for residents. So has any consideration been given to doing density maps on per 14 geography area basis?
The policy map does give you that direction. The Regional Activity Center is our most intense place, and there are 4 within our city. And so that is without, sounding the alarms, that's essentially like, this is the vision for that type of place is your most intense development. And we talk about the place types and the intent of them through these community workshops. For example, we had a North Lake focus area and we said, this is a regional activity center. It's the most intense place. Here's the reason why. We just want to be clear about that vision with you and talk about the projects and programs that are needed to help realize that vision, because we understand what's on the ground today is not the most intense, fully functioning center that we want it to be. So I think we have done that through the policy map, and we are having those conversations with the community. I think we're using different language.
Any other questions for Catherine? Hearing or seeing none. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So I think it was the week of Memorial Day, you guys received a document from Candace asking you to review, provide comment, and prepare discussion on that document. Has everybody had a chance to review? All in unison now. Just joking. The document, as we have titled it, Planning Commission, it should be an apostrophe S, I think, rezoning review considerations document is before us for adoption today. Best to my recollection, there was not one comment submitted, which can be an indicator of one of 2 things. And I will assume the first, which is it is absolutely perfect in its current iteration and does not require any edits. Because if there was a belief otherwise, we would have received comments. So for the benefit of the public, of course, the document is before us on display. Is there any last minute discussion? Going once, going twice, hearing none. May I please have a motion?
Motion to approve Wilden.
Second, also.
Yes, and beat you to the punch. You got to be quicker than that. Motion to approve and adopt. Yes, Commissioner Walden. Motion to approve and adopt.
Yes, ma'am.
Second by Commissioner Gaston. Is there any additional discussion? I have just one point, just a simple thank you for Allison, Dave, Laura, Alicia, Candace, Sari, Aaron Stanforth, Leslie Johnson, Sarah Hazel, for touching this document in some shape, form, or fashion. I appreciate the time that you allowed us to steal, your time and your talent. I appreciate you. Commissioners Blumenthal, Russell, and Wilden for preparing this document to bring forth, for your patience as we worked with staff, legal department, county commission, and one or two council members to make sure that this document is palatable for all parties that it touches, as much as is so possible. So again, thank you for the work. And with that, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Are there any opposed? That motion passes. The document is adopted. I thought we would be done with this document back in February. So it's been a long road. So I had to definitely do the round of applause there. So thank you, everybody, for your work again. Sorry?
Finish line.
Yes, and having said that, this is an opportunity for us to review, or for me to kind of peruse our 2023 work program. Work program item number 1. For those who do remember, Planning Commission Community Engagement and Education. So the first part of that was to solicit and engage community to inform of the role of the Planning Commission and further establish the commission as a liaison and community resource on land use and land development matters, and to identify and or initiate engagement opportunities with city and county elected officials and stakeholder groups for the purpose of highlighting the work of the commission. I have to say that although that particular item of our work program was off to a very, very late start, I consider it a success. So for those who attended one or some, thank you, one, for taking the time and investing and participating. I think that I deem it a success because of the challenges that were identified. Sealy and Neely were both present at this past June 8th at Mountain Island Library. County Commission was present and a few residents were present. I'm sorry, and Commissioner Wilden was one of the first people to arrive. And Commissioner Gusman has made them all, of course, but that particular meeting of all, even the one with the high, I think at Sustain Charlotte, we had, I think, somewhere about 20, 25 people at that. particular event, but this past one was probably the one that left the most mark on me because it just highlighted the amount of work left to do. It is with that I hope, I will express, I hope that future commission leadership can in some shape, form, or fashion continue this portion in some iteration. I don't know what that iteration will be. That's not for me to determine, but there are so many people who have just the misconception, misinformation, or just lack of knowledge that the body even exists and still feel disenfranchised. If I had $1 for every time I heard, we don't have representation, we don't have representation. Again, that's the main reason why this was part of our work program. So just wanted to take an opportunity to say thank you to those commissioners who were able to make this happen. Item number 2, community area planning alignment rezonings, that of course is ongoing and TBD in terms of an end date. UDO implementation. We're happy to have watched that be ushered through by our planning director, Allison Craig and team. Item number 3, I'm sorry, that was number 3. Number 4, environmental and sustainability. Define and establish a framework with tools necessary to guide decision-making with regards to environmental and sustainability matters within the purview of the Planning Commission. Of course, that's probably the work program item that had the most parts. Figuring out how to establish a permanent subcommittee. But all of the items in this particular portion of our work program are also now officially complete. Five is transportation and mobility. No, it's completed. I just needed to circle back to 4 for a quick second, but now there's a 7 that I have an old version on here. Item number 5 is complete. Commissioner Lansdale, who is not with us, is our current liaison. I don't know if that will continue in the future leadership. That is not for me to determine. As Dave said, that's not my department. And there is one lingering incomplete or partially complete item on our work program, and that is the item number 6, review of our guiding documents, the interlocal agreement and rules of procedure. I felt that was more of a marathon type item, and because there was such a great effort put towards the rezoning considerations, please forgive me, that document has gone through a couple different iterations in terms of names, and didn't know that of all the work program items that would be the thing that consumes so much of our time this fiscal year, but it did, and it was worth it. So I will leave as an inheritance item number 6 to future leadership. And speaking of future leadership, I'm sorry, is there any questions about work program item? I think circling back to item number 4, where we had our environmental and sustainability efforts. Remember, we took the rezoning considerations document and made it its own work program item, number 7. And that item, again, it's officially completed. So again, just item number 6 that is kind of lingering. Any comments on work program 2023? Thank you. Having said that, moving along to our final, and I'm going to give y'all some minutes back in your day. Final item of the day is the vote for our leadership for fiscal year 2024. In front of you is a piece, half a sheet of paper with some names on it. Please take a moment or two or three to indicate your preferred person in terms of the chair and vice chair. If there are any nominations, additional nominations not listed on the paper that you wish to make, you may indicate that on this sheet of paper. There is space for a write-in candidate. And as a reminder, our nominating committee made the recommendation for Douglas Walton as chair and Andrew Blumenthal as vice chair. Again, if there are any additional nominations, they may be written into the ballot. And thirdly, if there are any additional nominations, they may be written into the ballot. Does anybody have any questions? Once you have completed your vote on the sheet of paper, may I nominate Ms. Rory to collect them? So let's take a moment and you can put them or hand them to her. Thank you. And as Candace collects and tallies and does her thing with those, I would like to acknowledge Mr. Vice Chair, who, as I indicated at the top of this meeting, officially is presiding as Vice Chair of the Planning Commission for one of his last meetings. I think the final one, unless there's something more, will be on June 20th. And I would like to offer you the floor to say a word or two if you so choose.
All right, I'll try and make these moments brief. I think 30 minutes should do it. It is, this role has been amazing to have the opportunity to have the impact on our city this way. As just neighbors, citizens, interested parties, people who've paid attention to the issues relating to land use. We all have a tremendous amount of power. And I know as we do it, we very frequently will make the comment, it doesn't matter, or in some way belittle what it is. I know I've done it at times when we take a vote, we go, it's not going to make any difference or something like that. Know that there are a lot of people who are listening to us. Even when we're silly, and that part doesn't bother me, but the words we say and the stands we take, I think have a very real impact on our city and the people who live here. And I don't know, everyone I've had the opportunity to serve with on the commission has been wonderful, wonderful people. I've really been, yes, specifically, I'd like to explain. No one in person specifically. No, it really is amazing, the opportunity to work with city staff that we have. I came out of this thinking of our staff as being very committed and knowledgeable. And I would take it, they're very caring. I've had the opportunity to work with 3 planning directors now. I think felt like that was one too many maybe, but I'm thrilled that we have Allison with us. And I know that the staff that I've had the opportunity to work with care about the city, care about the citizens, and honestly care about us here around this dais, and helping us achieve the things that we try and set out. So it's a big thank you. I'll throw a party next month or so, probably invite everybody. So, because it's not my rule anymore that I'm breaking, but we can cover that then. And if y'all can come, you can work out whether or not you're supposed to be there together or not. But I also want to take a moment to thank Kiva. We started out same day, same place. I think we both had conversation with Bolin that day, and we're like, I'm not sure what we gotten into. Good news is we didn't start wearing flip-flops to meetings, so I think we've improved on the process. But thank you so much. You have been a stellar leader and a good friend. And I really appreciate your effort when we've agreed and really struggled when we didn't, but at the same time was happy it was you there that I was disagreeing with. So thank you. Thank you all.
Man, oh, man. Well, now we don't need an excuse to have dinner. I have had the privilege of serving with some amazing people, all of which I have learned from, including you guys, including you, Aaron, although you are our newest member. I am a lifelong learner, so I will find any situation to learn from. And I have had my share over this past 6 years. There are some who have influenced me more than others. When Phil said that we came in together, that's true. And no, we didn't start wearing flip-flops, but I did at least start writing in red ink due to Friday. And I think that he was a great influence on me, so was Sam. But you and I came in together. We started on XCOM together. We have served in every capacity together. And I won't say I'll miss you because you live 15 minutes from me, so we can always see each other. And of course, we'll be probably in the same circles a time or two. But all of you, just like Phil said, you have quite a unique voice and a level of privilege and access to council, commission, city staff that many, many boards will never be able to enjoy. Use it for good. Use it to make the city better. Use it to improve the lives of your neighbors and the people of the city and county. Whatever stamp that you plan to leave as your service on this commission, make it count. And having said that, you cannot, it doesn't matter what your goal on this commission is, doesn't matter what kind of stamp you want to leave, you cannot do it without Dave, you can't do it without Alicia, you can't do it without Allison. You can't do it without staff members. Nothing happens without Candace. When I say that, nothing happens without, literally nothing. And I just wanted to express my deep gratitude for you all, Laura, Alicia, Candace, Allison, Dave, the accessibility that you've afforded me and the aggravation that you've allowed me to take on your nerves and still be able to have respectable discourse. I appreciate you, and I too have learned from you guys. Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Godspeed. Introducing your next leadership team. The 2024 fiscal year 2024 Planning Commission Chair, Douglas Walton. And the fiscal year 2024 Vice Chair, Andrew Blumenthal. Congratulations, gentlemen. I would afford Mr. Blumenthal the floor first.
Thank you very much. To keep it to both you and Phil, it's been a pleasure serving. Like you said, it's not goodbye. I'm sure I will see you not only in our meetings next week, but plenty of times moving forward, and look forward to your not going away party, but the party to celebrate everything you've accomplished. To Douglas and to everyone else, I look forward to the next fiscal year and hopefully many more after that. I think I've had the opportunity to speak with most of you on an individual level, and to those that I haven't, I know that we've talked about making that happen. So I won't go into a ton of detail here, other than to say, excited to see what the next year brings. Douglas, excited to co-captain the ship with you, And that's all I have.
Thanks, Andrew. I will just say thanks to everybody for giving me the opportunity to steer the ship, so to speak, next year. Look forward to having a very interesting year, if nothing else. I'd like us to be more influential. That's one of the things that's just centerpiece for me. And hopefully we'll be able to accomplish that. I am going to try and get to talk to everybody, Courtney. I need to get with you, but here in the next few days, and we'll get the committee assignments out for how things are going to go. There's going to be a little bit of a thing here in July, but that's okay. We've got that covered. Andrew and I've talked about that. And I want to find out what great things each of you has out there to offer to this organization. And, the object of the game for me is always to find what people do best, align it with the purpose of why we're here, and get the hell out of the way and let you do your jobs great. And so that's my tact. Look forward to having fun. That's the way I do it. So that's me. And Candace, do I need to say anything else? Is now a time? Oh, I'm going to walk now. You have Vanna White from South Carolina too. Yeah, don't I look like Vanna White? Oh, these on this side? Okay, yeah. Anything else up there I need to add? Okay, do those. And my mom's with me today, and which is really weird. Mom had visited me a long time, and she's watching the Price is Right. Dear Lord, what are we doing to our country? And to stop that, I have these two plaques that I'd like to give to our exiting people, and these lovely gifts, which were just a minor token of our appreciation. I hope you guys enjoy it. I hope you have space on your wall to hang all that good stuff. And
I'll move some other stuff.
okay, and again, don't watch The Price is Right. Just
Why, thank you. I'll come upstairs for my 6-foot crystal statue a little bit later after the meeting. Thank you so very much. This plaque, I'll read mine. I'm assuming yours might say something similar. In appreciation for the dedication and leadership
The
given to
name
the
is different.
given to the community through service on the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Planning Commission. So this the certificate is presented by the commission. That's a lot of years. Is that math right?
I know, yeah.
August of
Seems
2017 to June 2023, probably June of 2023, I might add. Thank you so very much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you. With that, is there any other discussion, comments?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I had one quick announcement just for the commission. We have one departing member, well, not technically member of commission, but support staff, Siobhan Davis left us last Tuesday. Yes, so please email me for all requests. She got a promotion and went to HR. Yes, I was, kudos to her. Today, I was running around like, "Oh, what am I supposed to do? What am I supposed to do?" Because she does a lot of things in the background. So I am seeking new assistants, but as of right now, I will be everything.
Even more the center
Okay.
of all that we do.
Noted. Anybody else? Anything else? Oh, yes, Allison.
I just wanted to thank you both just for everything you've done for our department over the years, both as in your leadership positions as well as just serving as commissioners. We've done some really remarkable things as a planning department over the last few years and have some major accomplishments that we're all very proud of. And I just want to thank you both for all of your work and helping us reach those major accomplishments. So you will be dearly missed. Looking forward to our next leaders here with the commission, but just please know that we all really appreciate you and everything you've done to support us over the years. So thank you.
Thank you, Allison. I was, there was a high school graduation that I was watching, and it reminded me that this is one of the first classes that kind of lived most of their high school years during COVID. And so the speaker was kind of mentioning that, and it was the hardest thing for a high school class to be able to do, is experience starting school normal, going through 2 or 3 years of COVID, and then graduating normal, new normal. And it made me reflect to this. I don't think I would have wanted to serve any other time, because now I don't know any different. Now I know that the workload is gargantuan. Always, you'll always have heavy lifts on this body, but no other class has lived through quite what you and I have shared with the iterations of UDO,
That has survived.
comp plan, and adoption of both of those documents that have seen it, from some of its earliest iterations to complete adoption. So I'm happy that I was
Douglas
here
is the other one.
to have experienced that. And to the rest of you, you're welcome for us doing the hard work. I'm just joking. You guys, this is one of the most challenging times for zoning committee members, I will say, those who will be on zoning committee. But I would be worried if you didn't have a Dave Pettin.
Correct.
So although it might feel rocky in the first couple months that you're learning, I'm not concerned that you won't get it because Dave and team. So good luck to everybody. And anything else, anybody? Yes, Courtney.
I just want to say I enjoyed working with both of you all. I would also highly recommend anyone that's moving to zoning to connect with Phil or to connect with Kiba. I started during COVID, and the person that started with me she's moved or what have you. It was only two of us that started in 2020. But Phil was nice enough when they politely told me that I was moving to zoning, didn't even know that was a part of the whole process. But nonetheless, he met with me during COVID to give me the ins and outs of what to expect, what we could do, what we couldn't do. And that was just very helpful to me because I was just learning, planning, and then here you turn me to a whole different committee. It's like, okay, this is interesting. And so you really, really helped me. And I still go back to the things that you told me during our coffee chat to this day to make sure that I'm on par. So I would highly recommend for newly moving zoning committee members to meet with Philip and Kiba so that they can give you their words of wisdom and just their key marks, because it gets really dicey in there. We get down. We go back and forth. We're polite, but we all have our stances, and so it's really important for someone to walk you through the steps, because there is not a one-on-one class on zoning. You walk in first day with your all power to make decisions for the city. And it's very daunting. So I would highly recommend chatting with them before they leave us. Well, they're not leaving us, they're in the city, but connect with them.
I'm available, and my information is still on the website for another week or so.
My phone number isn't changing. Dave, we tried to get a orientation together because we've been talking for a few years about making some sort of official, after your first 8-9 months, you're getting ready to flip over to zoning type class. And we tried to steal the planning committee meeting next week as the orientation session, since planning committee members are the only ones who have not yet served on zoning. Unfortunately, in order to do that, we would have had to vote in the last XCOM meeting. And unfortunately, we had some other pressing matters that didn't allow me to look that forward. So by the time we tried to make the adjustment, Candace wouldn't allow us to break the rules. And I'm just joking. Our attorney advised that if we were to move that meeting because of the holiday. So because of the holiday, both the planning committee and the zoning committee are in meetings, which means if the zoning committee is in a meeting, normally Dave is in a meeting, so he can't come to our planning committee meeting. And in order for us to change that, it would have required us to have a special meeting of executive committee to vote to change the meeting, and it just didn't work out that way. So again, Dave has kind of mentioned that they're still trying to entertain how to still make that happen. So hopefully some magic is made there, but my phone number doesn't change. There is a ton of knowledge even among this dais that can help inform. If you think you know zoning and you have never served on a zoning committee, you do not know zoning. I cannot make that clearer. If you think you know zoning and you have never served on the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Planning Commission Zoning Committee, you do not know zoning. So if you are wise, you would definitely, again, my phone number isn't changing. I'm sure Phil isn't going to change his, at least not in the next 2 weeks. But we're available, and I don't mind sharing. There are tips and tricks, not only just your brain power to use to make decisions, but there are workload management tips that we can offer, because sometimes you might, I don't think I've ever sat in a zoning committee work session where there was less than 12 petitions. Sometimes they get upwards of 25. I saw 25 on an agenda one night, and oh my, luckily it wasn't me in the meeting. But reach out to those who have served before. I don't mind sharing what I know because it can help you. If you think you know zoning, I will reiterate, and you have not served on the zoning committee, you do not know zoning. You will not be prepared to walk into that meeting July 5th. So just reach out to someone, watch all the zoning committee meetings, work sessions are publicized. They're on the planning department's YouTube page. So look at that just to get some historical reference, and Mr. Patton wants to chime in.
Now that you're all terrified of zoning committee meetings, no, it's not. It's not that.
They're really fun.
Really fun. They're tons of entertainment. For the new members that haven't been on, and Douglas, I'll work with you for when we know the roster for each. If there's folks that haven't served, we've got a few weeks before that July meeting, or if we work on another schedule, I'm happy to set up just some one-on-one Zoom calls or a couple at a time, whatever we need to do just to get some folks some general overview just from a staff perspective. I think the institutional perspective that y'all can provide is wonderful. We're happy to give them a little bit more of the kind of nuts and bolts and procedural things. So if that's something we want to do just virtually, like I said, happy to set up an hour for a couple people at a time or one at a time, whatever we need. So just let us know.
Yeah, thanks, Dave. And I would just defer to Candace. There would probably be about 4 people we're talking about. Do we have to notice that to get them together on a Zoom call or not?
Yeah, I think if we can keep it below.
Okay.
It's always, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's just the dance that we need to do.
I would say it's
So like
also,
two at a time. I mean, it'll be the same presentation minus
Okay.
some individual, topic questions that somebody might have. But yeah, if we can probably avoid quorum wise, then that helps. So.
Okay.
I might encourage also, if they're notified before the 20th, if they wish to come to, not the 20th. Yes, the 20th.
Yeah, the 20th.
And they can also attend 2 weeks later, our zoning committee meeting. Could be very informative on just understanding process and practice and some of that. It's a public notice meeting. If they're not on the zoning committee and they're sitting in the public seats, that's just legal.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the plan is to talk to everybody this week. So
I will give this lesson learned. Once you and Andrew, Commissioner Blumenthal, Mr. Vice Chair, have decided who those members are, get the roster to Dave immediately, because he will have to line up notifications and all of that stuff, do the switcheroo, and it takes his team a week or two to make the switch. So with that, yeah, you should not be frightened. And the reason why I keep emphasizing, I'll just clarify, is that the again, the impact of this body is a lot different than nearly any other advisory board. And I just want to make sure that everyone understands that these work sessions are important decisions are made and life-changing decisions are made in these meetings. And with that, motion,
To adjourn?
Mr. Vice Chair, you beat Wilton. I don't believe it.
Seconded,
I think she gave
Wilden.
that to me.
Motion by Gusman, second by Wilton. All in favor, scoot your chairs back. Thank you.
Aye.